that's going to be kind of like the focus here. So let me make sure we live stream. Let me make sure we record. And then I'm going to share my screen with you guys. All right. Going to share my screen with the homies, James and Tyler. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm joined with these two kings, James and Tyler, and today we're going to go over the macro, the flexible dieting and the macro master class. So let me share my screen with you guys real quick. I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to open up my Google Chrome, and then it was going to give me my presentation. Heck yeah, there it is. Present. And then can you guys see it? Give me like a thumbs up if you're able to see this. Oh yeah, we are in business, baby. So let me double check, make sure the live is going on Facebook. I think we're good to go, but let me just make sure the squad that's watching here on Facebook can see. If you guys are here on Facebook watching the live in our group, drop a hashtag live, drop a hashtag replay. Maybe some of you guys, maybe you're just feeling a little lazy, didn't want to go on the Zoom and you just wanted to watch through the Facebook group. That's fine. Hey, I'm not judging, but I love seeing your guys' faces. So let me make sure that's working. Yeah, we're cool. All right, it's working too. Beautiful. Let's get into it. We are going to talk today, right now, about the flexible dieting and macro masterclass. All right, the flexible dieting and macro masterclass. Now, this one's a big one because that's basically what we do. That's really what we do. Like, I don't want to hide like I have some mega secret formula that's going to be the absolute transformation game changer, the magic pill, the magic wand, whatever. This is the closest thing that I have to that. All right. This is the closest thing, is flexible dieting and basically understanding what macros are, how it all works, how you can just set yourself free when it comes to nutrition and still hit your goals at the same time. All right. There's a million different ways that people like to try to lose weight. Like, there's a million different ways. Some people like to just try to bury their head in the sand and they'll just like take supplements and think that that'll fix everything. There's some people, that will, heck, oh my gosh, there's just like a million different ways that people will try to lose weight. Right. But if you want a sustainable approach, sustainable, meaning that we can stick to this and it doesn't feel like a miserable kind of thing, flexible dieting is where it's at, y'all. All right. So let's get into it. What is flexible dieting? Flexible dieting is just a diet. It focuses on the overall amount of macronutrients that you get. We're going to get into that more, but macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats, we'll get into that just a second, but we focus on getting a balance of everything versus like cutting out certain food groups or anything like that. I like to say that it allows for structured flexibility. All right. What most people like to do when they try to when they aren't quite there towards flexible dieting, they try intuitive eating. And intuitive eating is kind of just like a way to say that, like, I'm just going to try to guess my best decision, to try to like lose weight and just eat mindfully. It might be a step in the right direction, but it's just not as powerful as flexible dieting, because essentially the word dieting implies that we're going to have a little bit of structure here. And the truth is, you guys, as human beings actually thrive off of structure. They thrive off of patterns. They thrive off of repetition. So structure is really important. But at the same time, we have that human factor. So we're not complete robots. So that's why flexible dieting is beautiful, because it allows you to be flexible, structured flexibility. So originally it was called back in the day. So if you went back like 10, 20, 30 years in like the bodybuilding world and the fitness world, health and fitness world, they used to kind of call it if it fits your macros, is what the old term slang was. It was IIFYM, if it fits your macros. And back then it was like, eat whatever you want. And as long as you hit your macros, you're good to go, right? And that it works, right? It will work. However, it's also like, we don't like want to just hit our goals eating nothing but, protein shakes and Pop-Tarts, because, we're going to miss out on a lot of important things for our health, micronutrients, etc. We'll get into that in just a second. But flexible dieting, baby, it's the best way to go about it. We don't have to restrict any of our favorite foods, nothing like that. So there's a lot of advantages here. So this slide, advantages of flexible dieting. Oh, guys, I'm so excited about this one. Flexible dieting is just, it allows, so much variety. There's nothing off limits when it comes to flexible dieting. Maybe you've came from like paleo or keto or vegan or whatever. All those diets, they all have like certain no-nos. You cannot touch this. It's forbidden, right? So I don't like that. I guess I'm like I'm just a natural kind of, I don't like being told hard restrictions and things like that. So I could never thrive off of those kind of diets, like keto, paleo, pescatarian, anything like that, right? Like I love having a little bit of everything, and that's cool. That's just how I like to go about things, and it turns out a lot of people do. So you don't have to restrict anything at all. Everything is game. So it really promotes that long-term sustainability. This isn't like a quick fix thing that you have to just you try and then you can get off. You have to get off of. Like you can stay on this for the rest of your life, and it completely will balance your relationship out with food. Like it's a game changer. So it allows you to enjoy your favorite foods. So I want you to take a look and just kind of like see these two pictures here as like a little bit of like a metaphor. All right. So if you see this big picture here, like it looks like some really like, let me see if I get this out of the way. These dishes right here are, there's big bowls of food. It's high volume of food, but it's very like natural sources of food, things like that. Like these are pretty much what like almost 80% of what you're going to be eating on flexible dieting is going to look like. You can see some avocados, there's some veggies, there's some lean meats, those are basically like your bread and butter, essentially, metaphorically. So you want to have 80% of your foods derived from those nice whole sources. And still, like, look how good that looks, right? It still looks amazing, still is awesome. And then you look at this picture down here, like this picture down here, you can see there's like pizza, burgers, French fries, chicken nuggets, wings, right? This is like what the majority of society eats right now, right? So like for most people, these two photos here are flip-flopped, right? Like 80% is burgers, fries, pizzas, ice cream, chicken nuggets, that kind of stuff. And then like 20% is the whole foods. What we want to encourage here with flexible dieting is we want to have a majority of our foods come from whole food sources, and like try to limit the processed food, because these foods, they make you want to eat more of them. Like, and you guys, like, I'm not like saying like, I'm like impervious to this food. Like I love this food. It's awesome. It tastes so good. Recognize there are no like good or evil foods, good or bad foods. Recognize these foods as just like the data that it is. Like these foods typically just have higher calories. It's a lower volume of food, more sugar, more sodium, things like that. It's not going to be the end of the world. Really, it's not. You can have these things in moderation, but just realize like this stuff is still super awesome. This is totally manageable as like a day-to-day diet kind of thing. You just have to figure out what recipes you like to cook and the things that you like to have. And then I guarantee you'll have probably 3 to 4, main go-to lunches, dinners, and breakfasts that you can make like no problem and hit your macros each and every time. It's just a matter of time and experimentation and repetition, etc. So I could go all day on the advantages of flexible dieting, right? So of course I'm biased. There's probably some disadvantages in there as well, but any diet that is out there, flexible dieting, paleo, keto, any diet, when it comes to losing weight and weight loss, what matters, what is the king that trumps all, is the caloric deficit. All right. Doesn't matter if you're on flexible dieting, if it doesn't matter if you're on keto, doesn't matter if you're on carnivore, whatever. The input of energy that is measured through calories is what matters. All right. That is what is the end all be all. That was proven by the law of thermodynamics, discovered by Sir Isaac Newton, I believe, but basically means energy can never be created or destroyed. It has to be transferred, things like that. But without going too deep down that rabbit hole, any diet that makes you lose weight is just, at the end of the day, it's calories, right? It's calories. So, and flexible dieting and counting your macros allows you to see and like understand how those numbers work, how the calories and all that works. So what are macros? What are macros, right? Those are like our best friends here when we're dieting. We learn to count macros, probably hear it all the time. Check it out. 4 categories of macros, right? Short for macronutrients, nutrients as to what we eat. There are 4 main sorts of macros, right? There's carbs, protein, fat, and there's even alcohol, right? Alcohol is kind of like an outlier, but it's still something that's consumed, on a regular basis in society. So we got to cover that, right? So carbs, proteins, fat, and alcohol. Carbs per gram, you can see in this little diagram here, there's 4 calories per 1 gram of carbohydrate, 4 calories per 1 gram of protein. That's the same. There's 9 calories per 1 gram in fat. It's a big number, right? And then there's 7 calories per gram in alcohol. But understand, obviously, alcohol is pretty much like an empty calorie. Right now, when we look at the foods, carbs, proteins, fats, alcohol, you can see in this diagram what those kind of food sources are. Carbs are like your fruits, your potatoes, your bread, veggies, grains. Protein, that's your meat, dairy, fish, eggs, that stuff. Fats are like your butters, oils, avocados, nuts, eggs, yolks. And then alcohol, those are all the kinds of drinks and things like that. But this is important information to just comprehend, you guys. Like, it might seem like almost like common knowledge. Maybe it's new to you, but like a lot of people don't understand this basic principle of nutrition. I know I didn't. Guys, Coach Brandon, me, I had no idea. I thought fats in macronutrients back in the day, I thought that was like the same thing as fat on your body. So I was like, oh, I can't eat any fats. Like, it's going to turn into fat. That was my old logic. So I'm not here to judge anyone as to where their level of comprehension on nutrition is, because we all start somewhere. All right. But there's 4 basic categories of macronutrients: carbs, proteins, fats, calories. They're all important. So let's break down kind of what they all do, except for alcohol, because I really just honestly discourage it. It really like doesn't help out much. But here's the thing, like pick your poison. If you want to have a drink on the weekend, that's your thing. It's fine. I don't judge at all. Go ahead, but you can still track it, right? You can still track it. You have to track it, but it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope because 1, it's super easy to drink the calories. And then 2, once people become intoxicated, then all the food that they eat after they're intoxicated and all the lack of decision-making skills, then it usually completely derails the diet. So I usually tend to recommend to just drink a diet soda or something, but that's just me personally. You live your life however you want. Let's go. Next, let's dive into these macros, baby. Protein, first and foremost, my favorite. Let's go over protein. Protein, that's like our foundation, baby. That is the building block of our muscles. When we go to the gym, when we go work out, when we go spend all and invest all of our time going to the gym or going at home and picking up some dumbbells and tossing them around, when we invest our time into doing that, what we're doing is on kind of like a micro level, we're tearing our muscle fibers up. We're beating our muscles up. What that prompts the body to do is to heal those muscles when we're asleep. When our body heals those muscles, our body is trying to adapt and survive. It says, oh, wow, for whatever reason, I'm getting put through so much resistance that it's literally like destroying my muscle fibers. I need to get stronger so I survive. So the way it gets stronger and how it rebuilds those muscles when you're sleeping is with protein. Protein is the main macronutrient that's used as like the building block of muscle. Think of it as like the concrete that's getting poured in to fix all your muscles that are broken down. That is what you need. If you are working out and busting your butt all the time, but you're not getting in enough protein, you're shooting yourself in the foot. All right. So that's why I like to just constantly beat it upside people's head that protein is so important. All right. Just for that one fact alone, that it is almost the essential building block for muscle. That already is why your protein is important. However, protein is also important for many other reasons. One being that it's the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it is the macro that keeps you the fullest more than others. So me, like as a guy who went through 100-pound weight loss journey, I'm always hungry. I was always hungry, but protein is your friend if you are always hungry, because it is very difficult to overeat chicken breast. It's very easy to overeat a box of Pop-Tarts, but it's hard to overeat a bunch of chicken breasts. So not only is it hard to overeat, it fills you up. It's super hard to, want to overeat and binge out on protein because it fills you up. And then also it actually takes the body the most amount of energy to digest protein. So you kind of like burn more calories. It's not like a huge major difference, but the body, it actually takes a lot more energy for it to break down and metabolize protein versus carbs and fats, right? So protein all day, and it's good. Like, I don't know, like I love protein. Who doesn't like going to a nice, cookout, put some steaks on the grill, put some chicken breast on the grill. You can make it a good time. Doesn't have to be like that sad picture of a bodybuilder eating chicken, broccoli, and rice. Like, season up your protein, season up your chicken, your steak, your turkey, your fish, get creative, cook with it. It will be your ally. All right. And then obviously, if you have if you don't eat meat, which it does make it a little bit more challenging to hit your protein goals, but there are still options like legumes, lentils, tofu, things like that. But it is a little bit more tricky at that point. What's going on?
I said pancakes.
Pancakes. There you go. You can throw in some. Yep, absolutely. That's a good point because that's a really good point, Tyler. Thank you for bringing that up because sometimes, let's say you're on the opposite end of the spectrum where you're not like me, where you're always hungry. Let's say you're like some of the moms that I work with, and like it's actually hard for you to eat. It's actually hard for you to get in the calories. It's hard for you to eat that protein. What Tyler just brought up is like you can eat some pancakes, right? But basically, what that means is you use some whey protein powder, which is like a dairy. It comes from a dairy product, basically comes from milk, but it's extracted through, and it's just like the isolated protein from that, and it helps you get your protein goal a little bit easier. You can drink it, easily through a shake. You can put it in some pancakes. You can mix protein powder with a lot of things other than just making into a shake, but it's very convenient. But that is also a great way to eat your protein. So that's the main thing. You, for the most part, want to get your protein from these whole food sources. But if you find that challenging, then supplement that with some whey protein powder. All right. So protein all day, get more of it, get a lot of it. Next.
Hey, Brandon, you know what I've been doing lately? I got a peanut butter protein powder, and Walmart sells a maple bacon jerky. So I'll measure out the maple bacon jerky. It's like real bacon, maple flavored, and I measure out a serving size, and I put it in that protein shake with the ice, and I'll make me a peanut butter bacon protein milkshake kind of thing.
Dude, no way. Peanut butter and bacon.
And then I put a maple syrup in it too.
You know what? That actually sounds hearty enough, like to the point where it'd be like sweet and good. Like, I don't know. You're onto something. I see how you always savory. I see how you have like, you're a great example of like how like food, like you can make it taste good. So I see all the different like you have like 300 different like types of breakfasts I've seen you make by now, and like you're hitting protein goals with it each and every time.
I put dates in it too, and it kind of gives it a caramel taste.
Yep, there we go, baby. It's flexible dieting for the win. I love it. So protein, got to get a lot of it. I like one of my main staples as well was protein pancakes. That was like a mind-blowing thing for me because I thought I couldn't have pancakes. I thought like you couldn't have that. I thought carbs were bad. Carbs are evil. That's what we're looking at right now. And that's still in a lot of people's heads. It's just like, it's kind of like the reason why a lot of people think carbs are bad is just because, keto just really kind of popped off as a fad diet, right? It's what it's kind of like called in the industry is what we'll call it. But like, don't get me wrong. Ketogenic diet is a legitimate diet. You can actually, it's all real. The going into ketosis, all of that, that's legit. That's genuine. The same, but here's the thing, you still can only lose weight through a caloric deficit. And you have to be able to be the type of person that can stick to that. And just like, if you are, that's awesome. But a lot of people who aren't that type of person, they force themselves to be that type of person. And then when they aren't, they beat themselves up like, oh, I suck. I have no self-discipline. I'm terrible. But no, like you're just doing something that is not like really rational for human beings. Human beings have always been, they're called opportunistic omnivores, meaning we eat meat, we eat vegetables, we eat whatever we can, because as we were going on and just trying to be hunters and gatherers, we ate whatever we could to survive, right? So we're opportunistic omnivores as a species. So there's never been a point in where human beings have been like, I'm not eating this anymore, except for, in recent times, right? So carbohydrates are actually the human body's main preferred source of energy, main preferred source of fuel. If your body is like a car, right, and you're going to the gym, you're working out, so you're really redlining that car, you're going 0 to 60, 0 to 100, you're really moving. You want to put fuel and gas into the car. You want to put carbs in your body if you're really pushing yourself. There's a reason. If you look at any look at like an NFL athlete, look at like a power lifter, look at an Olympic athlete, I promise you, look at like a long distance marathon runner, look at Michael Phelps, a swimmer, something like that. Like these athletes are loading up on carbs before like it's tournament day, before it's game day. These guys are getting pumped up with carbs because carbs, they turn into basically like glycogen, which is broken down into glucose, and that's what your body uses as energy. So carbs is like your body's quickest form of energy. There's different kinds of carbs. Like carbs can be kind of on a spectrum, right? So there's simple carbs and there's complex carbs. A lot of the main problem that like ails America, that ails US is simple carbs. It's super easy for the body to eat simple carbs. It spikes your insulin and just causes different chemicals in the chemical reactions in the body that are unfavorable for weight loss. But when we eat like cookies, candies, cake, things high in sugar, those are really simple carbs and they're easy to overeat. And that's why everybody demonizes carbs. Everybody thinks carbs are bad, but they're not. They're just like the easiest to overeat from having the simple forms of carbs. Like you can still have fruit, like you have fruit, sweet potatoes, rice. The pasta is still good when you actually take time to like measure it and you actually, take time to balance it. Like carbs are so amazing. Carbs are so awesome, but we can't abuse them from like basically processed sources that just make refined sugars like the 80% of most of people's entire diet. Really, like I kind of like I'm kind of judgmental when I go to the grocery store. I always like do like market research and I look at what everybody's putting in their grocery store cart and what they check out and buy. And a lot of them, it's like boxes of food that we unwrap. And that's not a natural source of food. Look at how far, the food that you're eating has strayed away from Mother Nature. And that will kind of help you make a better decision. If it grew out of the earth, that is how you know it's good to go. But if you had to take it out of a box and unwrap it out of plastic, that's kind of like a reddish yellow flag right there. All right. So make sure when you're having carbs, you're being smart about it. Now, a lot of times people like to say, an advantage is to have like pre-workout carbs, post-workout carbs. So eating your carbs around when you're going to be doing the most physical activity throughout the day, that is a good thing. That is a good practice to want to do. However, for the scheme of weight loss overall, I don't care if you eat like 200 grams of carbs right before bed, and that's when you eat your carbs. You can still lose weight. So as far as the grand scheme of weight loss is concerned, your meal timing, your nutrient timing, things like that don't matter that much. However, let's say you're like, you're a performance athlete and you have like a competition coming up, you want to perform at your best. Well, then to stack the odds in your favor, you would eat carbs a little bit closer to your window of performance. So that's basically it. But if you're just like an average person and you're just on a weight loss journey and I don't really care, I don't like have to do anything too extreme other than my workout. Like I'd rather have something sweet before bed. I'm saving my carbs for then. Good to go. Really, as long as you hit your calories, you're good to go. All right. So that's carbs, baby. And last but not least, fats. Fats, I think, are the most demonized, often misinterpreted of all the macronutrients. Really, I thought fats were bad for the longest time in my own, personal journey. I used to think fats were like the fat on my body, but fats are extremely important. It's important for just your hair, your skin, your nails, all these kind of like functions in your body's hormones. You want to eat these things. These are important. It comes from avocados, salmon, fish, nuts, eggs, legumes, etc. Things like that. Fats are very important. Fats are they also satiate you. So they help keep you full. When you have things also like red meat, a lot of like, animal meat will have high in fat as well. Those things are good because they have fats and those fats will help keep you full for a long time after you eat. That's a win-win. So that is pretty much the main sources of macronutrients: proteins, fats, and carbs. We also have micros, right? So if there's macros, there's also will be micros. I won't go over this too much because this is a whole nother presentation in itself, is micronutrients. But basically micronutrients, it's a short, broad term for vitamins and minerals. And vitamins and minerals, they are very, very important for the body's functions of just everything, guys, from just how your energy is in a present basis, on a daily basis, your cognition, how you think, your hair, skin, and nails. Again, like a lot of things, you want to have good micronutrients as well. That's why we encourage to eat, things like natural sources of food, things like vegetables, things like that, because that'll just cover your micros right there and then when you just eat your veggies, eat natural sources of food. A lot of times people struggle to hit their micronutrient goals is because they'll have processed foods and those don't have a lot of, micronutrients. One thing you can kind of do to help stack the odds in your favor is take maybe a daily multivitamin to try to cover these, cover the bases really, but that's essentially that. We won't go too far into that. We'll do another masterclass on micros in the future. All right. So also wanted to touch on a few things that kind of were on the outside of macros. Really, there's your sodium. Sodium is a big one because this is it's something that like we need to have, but not too much of. Sodium, it's actually very, 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 very important for your nerves, for like, your hydration, things like that. So like the more salt that you have, your body will hold on to more water, but salt is also important for the contraction of your muscles and things like that. But now too much salt, it can be detrimental to your arteries, for your blood flow and for your heart. Now the recommendation by the American Heart Association is 2,300 milligrams or micrograms. Yeah, I think it's milligrams. Yeah, milligrams, 2,300 milligrams. And average Americans have usually over like 3,500 per day. That's usually like the average right now. It's way over the recommendation. Now, if here's kind of like a double-edged sword with that. Salt is a good thing. And if you're hitting around like 3,000 milligrams a day, that's honestly okay. Only if you're pushing yourself and you're going to the gym and you're sweating, because you actually need to have a little bit of salt in order to perform and do well when you're training. So if you're a little bit over 2,300, but you're actually doing, kind of like pushing yourself as an athlete, then you have a lot more leeway, a lot more leniency to your sodium. All right. So that's just a quick little 2 cents on sodium. There's also fiber we'll go over because it's kind of like a little outlier, but it's very important. I want you to understand what this is about. Fiber is extremely important, especially as we age. Fiber is just like, kind of like something that our body can't digest, but it helps go through our digestive system and kind of helps clean things out, flush things out, helps everything process as it should. So fiber, you got to get a lot of that going. All right. And that just, again, it comes from like eating your vegetables. Super simple. That's why people just it's like we're always just going back to basics, work out, eat more, eat veggies, eat more meat, eat more protein. And that's really what it is. But it's cool to hear about like why we should do that, because that, it's just more motivating as to actually do it. So hit your fiber. It's also very filling. It helps keep you full. It helps satiate you. So that's why like some of my biggest staple meals throughout my 100-pound weight loss journey was giant, massive bowls of vegetables and meat. Like I would have like big chicken salads, or I do like steak and asparagus. Like that combination right there of lean protein and vegetables is just, it's a win every time. All right. So that's fiber, a little bit of hydration. Hydration is just almost obvious, speaks for itself, helps transport the nutrients to your body, helps your skin, helps everything. It also really helps when I would say is when you're losing weight and maybe you're concerned about loose skin. Hydration is also something that you should really prioritize, because hydration encourages the elasticity of your skin. So as you're losing weight, it's going to help shrink up your skin, like as you're losing weight or post-pregnancy, things like that. Like definitely hydration is key. So usually for women, it's like 3 liters of water or more per day. For men, it's 4 liters or more. I like to just keep it simple in my brain and think of a gallon per day. All right. So now we're going to go over quickly, just a quick touch base on tracking your macros, doing the actual deed of flexible dieting. Now, when you track your macros, it's very simple. This is where people get overwhelmed, get scared, and back off. But this is the key. This is your barrier to entry if you want the body of your dreams. All right. I'm just going to be straight up and honest with you. Just give you the blunt, hard, cold truth. All right. You can love working out. You can love, pushing yourself. You can love doing cardio. But if you don't embody and really like get a good understanding of flexible dieting and just like track your calories, track your macros, you're going to be running in like a hamster wheel, always doing 1 step forward, 2 step back. All right. But I promise you, if you really like fully dive into counting your macros, understanding what your calorie balance is on a daily basis, if you can get into that point, that will be your key to the results that you seek. All right. I promise you that, because that is what I've tried everything. And then out of everything that I've actually tried, when I was finally fully integral and fully honest and knew what my numbers were for sure, or at least, you know, very truthfully, but like it gets really difficult when you start eating things that you don't track, and then there's a bite here and then a taste here and then a lick there. You got to keep it 100 with yourself. Once you finally do that and you track the foods that you want, even if you overeat, screw it, still track it. But once you finally you do that and you embody that and you're like, let's do it, let's give it a shot here, you're going to start seeing wicked results. And then once you start seeing the wicked results, you're like, give me more to track. I want to track everything. I want to track it all, because you start seeing the results. It starts to click. All right. So I want you to get to that point. It involves just, you know, calculating your macros. There's a lot of ways to do that. That's pretty much usually my job for everybody, is like, you don't have to think about that, because there's a lot of different algorithms. There's a lot of different formulas, but there's basically, in my experience, it's just a case by case basis based on someone's age, their weight, their experience, their activity levels, things like that. There's a lot of ways to do it, but if you're seeing this, I'll already have that handled for you. So it's really something you don't have to worry about too much. Tools for tracking. Again, you want to have a kitchen food scale in your kitchen. Utilize everything measured to the gram. And then when you measure things, make sure you either measure it raw or measure it cooked, but don't measure one thing raw and then one thing cooked and then one thing raw, because it'll mess it all up. Pick one thing only and then just stick to that, like almost for life. All right. I like to measure everything cooked. That's just how I do it. It's just more convenient for me. Tools for tracking, very simple. Nowadays, there's so many apps out there. There's MyFitnessPal, Lose It, LifeSum. There's a lot of different apps out there. We use the Flex Fitness app, which is a derivative of Trainerize. I love the one that we use here on the Flex Fitness app. Super easy because it has like a barcode scanner. Everything's there in a database, but all the hard work there is done for us nowadays, right? But, you know, if you wanted to go old school, you could do pen and paper, and then you could, you know, count every gram of every carb, every protein, of every fat, and then multiply it by 4 or multiply it by 9, and then add up your calories. I remember doing it by hand, the old school ways. I remember doing that a long time ago, but the beautiful thing is you don't got to do it that way now. You can do it by just doing MyFitnessPal or by just punch it in the Flex Fitness app and it'll be there. And so convenient. It's never been easier. All right. It used to be hard. So, okay, cool. That wraps it all up. So if you are watching this now, I got my man James up in here. I know we got more people live in Facebook. If you guys are watching this, once we're done wrapping things up here, I want you to just post in the Facebook group kind of your biggest takeaway here with flexible dieting. What is it that you learned? What is it that you've seen flexible dieting as an advantage of your life? How has it helped your relationship with food? Things like that. I want to know, because I'm curious, because I just feel like I've tried so many different things in my life. And out of everything that I've tried, this was finally the one that stuck. It was finally the one that was like, all right, this is something that like I can do, because I could never, I tried doing Herbalife, drinking shakes and all that crap, didn't work. I tried doing keto and not eating any carbs and only eating meat and that stuff. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't last at all. It didn't work. I tried cutting out all my sugar. I tried cutting out cold turkey, all fast food. I caved. I couldn't work. But when I discovered flexible dieting, and I was like, what? I can still eat. I can have a Pop-Tart here and there. I can have pizza on the weekend. I can have, just like a little bit of like a ice cream treat, after, on an evening, things like that. When I saw that you could actually do that, it provided, you're eating your lean meats and you're covering your macros and you stay within your caloric deficit and you track it, you can eat whatever the heck you want. It's a beautiful thing. Because of that, you learn to respect food. You actually, like, if you see, like, you're not just going to eat an unlimited amount of chocolate cake every single day, because you're like, oh man, like, kind of have to save that for special occasions. Otherwise, I'm going to completely derail my progress. So you appreciate food a whole lot more. take it from me, guys. I'm a binge eater, you know, like when you're a binge eater or you're a food addict, like treat it like it is. Treat it like an addiction if you're addicted to food. I was straight up addicted to food, you guys. So when I realized that you can have it in moderation and balance, it heals your relationship with food, because then when you start eating whole sources of food, you start eating more chicken, you start eating more steak, you start having more broccolis and salads and asparagus, and you eat more fruit. And once you start eating those foods, it's almost like subconsciously your body is just like, yes, give me more of this. This makes me feel good. This gives me some pretty good energy. Let's go. And then when you kind of go back to your old ways a little bit, maybe you have another soda, maybe you have a little tub of ice cream, maybe you go out, have some burgers, whatever, you know, it feels good in the moment. It's nice, you know, it's nice. Don't get me wrong, treat yourself every once in a while. But then like the day after, you're just like, oh my God, or I feel terrible. This sucks. This hurts. Like your body literally like will tell you, read the signs, listen to what your body's trying to tell you. It'll tell you like, I don't like this. This is kind of painful. Let's go back to our normal protocol of eating whole, you know, natural, nutrient dense foods, right? And that's that 80-20 rule in effect right there. If you just listen to your body, it'll tell you to follow the 80-20 rule. All right. So post your biggest takeaways in the group. Let me know what you guys are all take away, even in the comments here, if you're watching the live, doing the comments. And then what we'll do, let me see what time is. We got a little bit of time here for a Q&A. I just got my man James in here. Let me just open it up. Let's have me and James will have a chat. Any questions, any takeaways, any notes, anything at all, brother? Let's talk it out.
I find one of my biggest challenges is logging everything, and I know that when I focus on it, I'm pretty good at it. But as soon as I stop focusing on it, like this, for example, this week my focus was working out more than once, so I got 2 workouts in this week. But my meal tracking kind of went off track. But I didn't eat much different than I do when I'm logging. But I just didn't track it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
that's my struggle.
yeah, no, honestly, man, like I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's something I should have really talked about in the main presentation. But here's the thing, man, that's a win right there. That's a win. The fact that like, okay, I wasn't tracking anything, but it was like the habits were ingrained. That's truly what we're almost like looking for, because you by tracking the food, by utilizing the scale, by tracking with the app, I totally forgot to mention this, and I should have, but we don't have to stick to that for life. We don't have to track everything to the gram and do that for life. In fact, it's almost like it's kind of healthy to take a break after certain long periods of time. If we're coming after like a decade of no structure at all, and we're in a problem, like, yeah, that's bringing some structure and things like that. But then like once you use the scale long enough, once you use the tracker long enough, like your eyes become the scale, your eyes become the tracker. You look at foods differently, and you just start to read between the lines. You like look at food like, oh, you look at a plate and be like, oh, boom, there's protein, boom, there's some veg right there, there's it's pretty heavy on the carbs, heavy on fats, like, all right, like you can just, the way you look at foods, it will change, and so will your decision making. So dude, I love this freaking win, James. Like, you know, just like that'll be like a new default almost for you, because like you get disciplined with tracking for an extensive period of time, and then those periods where we don't track, it's going to happen. We're human beings. I don't expect anyone to be like in 100% tracking mode forever all the time. But like the beautiful thing is, when you're not in tracking mode, you're like, your decisions are like way better. Like your portion control is better. You make the right call like way more often than you would, and you can maintain things without having to track for the rest of your life, and that's awesome. So like when you're on a cut, it's like that's when you really want to be like super like, okay, I want to know my numbers so I stay in the deficit, and then you just track, and then you get good at that. You build that skill, build the habits up, and then when you're like you're good enough or whatever, it's time for a diet break, then you don't even have to track at all. You go on maintenance mode or whatever, and you don't have to track, because you just know like, all right, I'm putting some protein on my plate, putting veggies on my plate, putting this on, you know. So yeah, man, absolutely love that, James. How else has like, flexible dieting, what are some other challenges or some other things that have actually made things maybe easier or more difficult for you versus before? What really comes to mind for you?
For me, fast food was definitely a big struggle. Like I would be getting fast food like multiple times a week, sometimes every day. But more recently, it's kind of more of a planned thing. Like if I know that I got a rough week coming up, I'll plan to go out and get something from a fast food place like on one day a week or something like that. But every other day, I'm bringing food from home, so I can I know what I'm going to eat and I have a plan. So just kind of planning ahead is key for at least me and my lifestyle right now. But every time I'm out and I'm driving home, there's always that thought of should I just stop by and get something on the way home? And I'm like, no, I have a fruit cup in my bag right now. I should eat that, or I have oats at home, or I have yogurt somewhere. So I kind of put that in place of the fast food, knowing that there's an alternative, and I just rely on that.
Yeah, dude, absolutely love that. That's a bring one to bring up for sure is yeah, because in modern day and age, that is a huge, like that's the real deal of what we all face, like when we're driving home from work or doing whatever, like that it gets you not only with like, it used to just get you with like, oh, it tastes good, right? But now it kind of almost gets you because it's convenient as heck, right? It's like, it's actually like, it gets done. Boom, food.
It's like I gotta eat something and I don't have anything with me. So
right. Yep. Got no time to cook, whatever, even for like the family, stuff like that. So here's the thing that's kind of like, for me, was always like, just almost a real nice thing about flexible dieting was where it still like, it gave me the freedom of like, I could still go to the fast food place, but like order the right stuff. Versus like, I would used to like be like, okay, I can never go anywhere. I can't go to like, any event. I can't go to any fast food restaurant or whatever. But when I like understood flexible dieting, if I go to like a family diner, if I go to McDonald's, if I go to whatever, like I know that behind everything that I order, there's a calorie amount that comes with it. And it's almost kind of nice because a lot of these chain fast food restaurants, whatever, they have all of the nutrition facts ready to go, ready to track. And all the portions are ready to go. So like, I love how you say like, you know that like, oh, I got some fruit, I got some oats. So how to like choose to eat, like, obviously probably more often than not, you'd go for the natural, like the whole source of food to stick to. But if like you're in a time crunch, you can still like, okay, let me get a grilled chicken sandwich and just like a fruit cup or something, from a fast food place. And you can still know the calories. You can still have a meal, not feel guilty about it, not beat yourself up over it, and still stick onto the plan. So that was a big game changer for me, was like, oh, what? Like I can have like a sandwich or whatever from a fast food place. It literally says on the menu or on MyFitnessPal or on the app, like it's 300 calories. Boom, I just add it to my plan and you go on with your day. So it's like, it's super cool. I forget which study it was, or if it was even a published study, or if it was just a guy doing a documentary, but there was a character out there, and he challenged, like he put the law of thermodynamics to a test. He wanted to prove it, and he successfully did so by, I think he ate nothing but McDonald's, and he wanted to prove that you could still lose weight. It wasn't a matter of what you ate, it was a matter of really like the portions and making sure that you're in a caloric deficit. And he did it. He measured everything that he ate from McDonald's. He did his body weight, lost all weight eating nothing but McDonald's. Now, I don't recommend that, because like you're going to be very like low on micronutrients, and like just because you're like losing weight doesn't mean like your body's like being super healthy. Like we got organs and like other things in our body that we want to take care of. So I don't recommend that. But like no, that was he was like the opposite, where he's like, he would eat as much as possible from it. Like he tried to go through McDonald's recommendations, which was not good, because they recommended like way too much for the average person. But it was like he was like a school teacher, just in like, he was like a science teacher, and it wasn't like a big famous guy or anything like that. It was a really like lesser known documentary. I'll have to find it and post it to our group. but he literally just like ate McDonald's every day and still like just proved that you can still lose weight. But obviously you're going to be like hurting on kind of like micronutrients. And then like, you know, it kind of takes for some people a lot of like, it takes a lot of discipline, because I don't know about you, but like when I go to McDonald's and I eat food from McDonald's or like any fast food, most of that food is going to make me want to eat a lot. Like it makes me want to eat more. It makes me like crave more salty. Like a lot of those foods are high in sodium, high in salt. And that's what makes people like a part of want them to eat more and, you know, things like that. So it's kind of like it's a slippery slope eating the fast food. So when you're in a time crunch and it's like, you know, you can't do anything about it. Like, you know, there's still plenty of like places that you can get good options from. Like you can go to Chipotle or Qdoba, get a bowl of steak or chicken and veggies, things like that. And you can kind of break even, do pretty well, you know, at fast food places. And usually the macros are there and you can ballpark it. But for always the best accuracy possible in the world is you do everything yourself, cook all your own food, weigh it yourself to the gram. Like that's like when you know that's like the perfect level of control is like when you're doing it all on your own, you know what it is, you cooked it, things like that. That'll be the guaranteed way of results. Like when I got serious about my journey, when I got super serious and I wanted to cut down and I'm just like, I want this no more than anything. I wanted all of the control. I wanted to know what was going in. I wanted like no one else to have any input. So you can almost call it obsessed, but some people say that just obsessed is just what lazy people call focused people. I was just very focused, right? I like to say obsessed too. I think that's a cool word, but it was just focused. So I would control everything that I cooked. I wouldn't really like share with my plate because it was like my macros were like already, I knew them. I was very you know, particular on hitting my macros and things like that. And so the more that you control, you know for sure what your numbers are, but like it gives us a lot of like flexibility in flexible dieting. That's why it's good for most people, because it allows for planned days where you can have fast food. It allows for so much just variety and options and things like that. And then like you can be as basic and structured as you want Monday through Friday, and then you can veer from that, all things considered. As long as you hit your numbers, you're good. So it's completely freeing. I think it's pretty nice. I think that's why I choose to teach flexible dieting. There's a lot of, I would say most coaches in the industry, that's really what that all comes down to. It comes down to that, like most ones that do pretty good transformations, they teach flexible dieting. A lot of them, I really can't tell you one off of my mind that I know that produces awesome transformations without, it's mostly just like putting yourself in a full caloric deficit and being flexible or with flexible dieting. That's kind of like the most popular professional way to do things. But now it's hard. It's still like, there's still tricky, like we're still human beings and there's still margins of error. So like there's days where we overeat, there's days where it's hard to just, you know, to track things, be accountable. So that's why we bring up our groups like this. That's why we have apps. That's why we get coaches. That's why we get accountable with teams and have communities. So it's like, you know, when we have those days of being where we don't feel like we're strong enough to follow through, and we have those moments of weakness and low accountability or for ourselves, we can lean on a group and lean on each other to be like, you know what, I see, you know, Tyler posting in the group. I see James posting his meal prep. That inspires me. I'm gonna stick to my stuff even when nobody else is looking, because I see my team out there doing it. It makes me want to do it even more. I see other people doing it right before me each and every day in this group. So I know it's possible. If they can do it, I can do it. And that's how I want your guys' mentality to be. All right. So flexible dieting, absolute key to some serious results. If you guys have any questions on it, drop them to me, drop them in the group. All right. I could rant and rave about flexible dieting all day. Cause it's just like, for me as like a fat kid at heart, where I really like to eat, I got a sweet tooth. I can still do that. I can still like eat like crazy and still get a physique I'm happy with, which I think is very cool that you can still enjoy these foods. I used to think like fitness and losing weight, like it was just, chicken, broccoli, and rice and misery, but it's actually not. Like you can still eat pizza, you can still have ice cream, still can have tacos. It really, what it does, it heals your relationship with food to the point where it's like you don't get overly excited and crazy about food anymore. You respect food, and you look at it as fuel and you appreciate it more. So flexible dieting for the win. For me, it gets 2 thumbs up all day, every day. So I will wrap things up on that note. All right, you guys, I'm going to go rest up, make sure I elevate my knee so it heals up quickly. I got to rehab that bad boy. So appreciate you for dropping in here, James. As always, it's good to see you. Keep up the amazing work. All right, I see you putting in work. I see you getting these workouts up. I see you getting that meal prep up. Let's keep building the momentum. Everybody else watching here in the group, keep up working on your goals. All right, I'm there with you on the front lines. Flexible dieting, it's something that like you're going to have off days. You're going to have days where you don't hit it perfectly. I don't expect anyone to do it perfectly, but you get better at it. You get just the hang of it. And once you just get the hang of it, and then time goes by, all of a sudden you're like, oh, holy crap, I'm 20 pounds down. I'm 30 pounds down. I'm 40 pounds down. Wow. I was just trying out this new way of eating stuff and just stuck to it over a while. And all of a sudden, 30, 40, and 50, 60 pounds down. It adds up. All right. Every time you put something on a food scale, every time you log it, every time you go to bed and you know what your numbers are, every time that maybe you screw up and you binge out, whatever, you don't beat yourself up. You just get back on it the next day. Every time you have those little wins, those victories, they add the heck up. All right. So keep stacking them, fam. All right. I'll talk to you all soon. I'm going to stop the share right now. I'm going to end our call. I'll see you later, James. I appreciate you, homie. Go out there, have yourself a good summer vacay, brother. You earned it. All right. I'll talk to you later, man. Peace, love, protein.